Oh, that's cool as fuck. When I put my computer on do not disturb, my phone also
And we
goes
are
into that.
live with Light the magician, the man, the myth, the legend. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good,
Yeah.
man. Glad to hear. So, you're ultra successful, smashing everyone in your competition with some NLP techniques and tactics. Why don't you share what puts you ahead?
Yeah, so if I had to put out on, say, one thing that have led to me being able to have a lot of success considering my age, it would be state control, the ability to control how you feel and the emotions you have at any given moment. So being able to go from, a play state to a very serious state in a matter of just snapping your fingers, or being able to enter a flow state when you need to focus on work. So
Absolutely.
managing your states to be as productive as possible always in your different environments is very important because the state you're in when you're talking to girls is not the same state you want to be in when you're working in front of your computer or when you're out with friends, All of it requires different emotions to portray if you want to be charismatic. So, yeah.
My man. Well, we could take it a bunch of different directions. I mean, we could talk about the girls, we could talk about the work, the flow state. I mean, what do you want to hop into first as far as we could talk about the girls if you want to start with that. Talk about
We can start with girls. That should be fine.
right up
So,
my alley.
yeah, so the girls are interesting thing because with girls, the the NLP you want to use is mostly not on yourself. You want to plant seeds in their minds, and you kind of want to use some tricks on them as well. And some people might say that it's evil to consciously use NLP techniques on like when it comes to females and other people, but I actually disagree. I think it's very important,
Me
or
too.
I think it's healthy for a relationship that as long as you don't use it with bad intentions, if you use it with the intentions to build good and healthy relationships, I think overall it just makes the girls happier and it makes the relationship better as well. Of course, it can be used for bad things, but it's like with everything, right? Too much of anything is bad for you, and intention is everything. So, as long as you use your techniques with good intentions, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's really something to be said about being able to tap into a positive emotion and being able to spread that in your relationships. It's not necessarily a way to shackle a woman in the way that we see some of the people who like to use it. You can use it to spread the positive energy that you have in your heart.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to using NLP on yourself with females, one thing I like to do is when I approach a new girl, I enter a state of like I already know them. So the state you're in when you're around people you already know is usually very different to the state you're in when you're around new people. So what I try to do is I consciously enter the state that I'm in when I'm around my friends, and I go up and I talk to her like I've known her for my entire life.
Mm.
So instead of going up and approaching her like, "Hey, my name is blah blah blah. What's your name?" I approach her and I say a sentence that's like completely out of context, something that you would say if it was your friend that you saw.
Whoa. Okay, so two things there. Well, let me ask you first. So when you talk about being able to swap the states, so what does that feel like internally? Can you describe that motion?
Yeah, so for me, I have emotions. I try to notice how they move inside my body whenever I switch states. So I try
Hmm.
to be conscious of where my emotion starts and where it ends. So that's the first thing. When you want to anchor a state, you want to bring up the emotion first of all. So you want to find the emotion or the feeling that you want to anchor, and then you want to like think about a memory that brings it up. So you want to find if you want to anchor the state of feeling like you're around people you know, a comfortable state. You want to like close your eyes, imagine yourself in that situation, take some nice deep breaths, and feel the emotion, like feel where it starts. For me personally, it starts in around my stomach area and then moves out all along my arms and goes out to my fingertips. And once I've located that feeling and that emotion, I do like a trigger. I make myself a trigger. So I snap my fingers maybe if I want that to be the trigger, and then I have a voice inside my head that says time to get comfortable.
Mm.
So
Okay.
next time in the future when I snap my fingers, the my brain will say time to get comfortable. I will relive the memories that I anchored, and I will get the feeling. I can feel it in my stomach going out all the way to my fingertips. And now I'm in a comfortable state. I'm ready to go up to the girl and say, "Hey, do you see that guy over there? Like the way he dances, doesn't he look like a total fool?" Go up, say that like we've known her for your entire life. She's gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Then she's gonna look at the guy. She's gonna be, "Yeah, he does kind of look like a fucking fool, doesn't he?" And then you have a conversation going.
Is this something that took some time to develop? Like, did you have to practice the anchoring methods over and over again?
Yeah, so I'm quite young, so I've actually always had a lot of trouble with like finding experiences because I started with this at a very early age, so I haven't lived much life. But the more memories you can bring up that gives you this feeling and anchor them to the same, like the snap or whatever you end up using, the better it is. So yeah, definitely when you want to anchor a specific state, I recommend focusing on one state for like 2 weeks. Then every night or every morning, you try to anchor that state to a new memory with the same feeling that you want. So with with being comfortable, I would find a notepad, write down 14 different memories you have where you have felt comfortable, and then every day for 14 days, anchor it to the trigger that you want.
And a trigger can be just about anything.
Yeah, so Bandler says it can be mental triggers as well. Like you can imagine a lever in your head and push it. That never worked for me. I always had to have some kind of physical trigger.
Hmm.
So so like I have snapping, I have stomping my feet, I have clenching my fist, I have blinking, and then like moving my head. I have a bunch of different triggers for different emotions. So I think it's just find what works for you. So maybe start mentally, start imagining a button that you push mentally, and once you push that button, a voice plays in your head. The voice displays the state that you want to be in, and then you feel the emotion that you want to feel.
Isn't it that so for you it sounds like you have a more body, a somatic connection to the triggers that you create, and that certain people have different senses or sensories that they are more acclimated to. So some people would need more a visual trigger, or like the strongest connection or sense with memory is a smell, and that you can also plant triggers in a way where someone who wants to get in the mood of studying, they can light a candle, and that gets them in their zone. You
Yeah.
practice anything like that, or is it all somatic with you?
No, I don't really. I've never actually thought about using it. Well, I have a bit, but I've never really bothered to use it because my goal is to make it as simple as possible. So I want it to be something that I can do anywhere at any moment, no matter what. So
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't need to rely to have a candle on me, or I don't need to rely to have a piece of paper that I physically write on. I should be able to access the state anywhere, anytime, no matter what. And the only states where I kind of have problems with this is like with a motivational state. That's very hard to bring up for me to like consciously anchor it to something. For me to work with a motivational state, I have to find a memory and I have to find out what caused me to get that motivational state inside the memory. It's kind of like that Nixium document. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the
The way,
motivation state. Yep.
yeah, exactly like that. I need to find the trigger that actually triggered the state at that time. I can't just anchor it to somebody else or to something else, no matter how much I try.
Right. And kind of like tying into motivation, because I'm over here, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm starting to wonder, is motivation would be a consequence of a different emotion. So you would want to find and anchor an emotion that would then lead to motivation.
Right. So when I personally want to bring up motivation, I try to envision a memory. No, so motivation comes from one or two things. Either a desire to gain something or pain. Those are
Hmm.
the two things that bring up motivation. So, and those are very different states of motivation. Personally, I find pain to get away from, or like desire to get away from something, is the hard or the best state of motivation for me. So I try to imagine a scenario where I had something horrible happen to me and I needed to fix it immediately. Like, let me think of something that most people experienced.
Trying to avoid the
Maybe,
consequences, like a deadline.
yeah, no, so okay, I was thinking about something else. So I used to go door-to-door sales, and that's illegal where I live. I remember one time somebody
Oh.
called the cops on me. So like if I had the cops on me, and my full motivation was to just get the fuck out of there, right? That's the
Right.
most motivated I've ever been, running away from the cops.
Yeah.
Right? I know that the pain I get if I stay here is immense, so I have to move now. That's the
Right.
memory. That's the memory I use often when I need to get into a motivational state. But for some reason, I don't know why, but with the motivational state, I can't anchor it, and I've had other people have the same problem.
Did you hear the thing that I tapped into to access the motivation state?
Yeah, the thing with you also knocking on doors, but with your
Yeah, I was
girlfriend.
looking I was looking for my
At
girlfriend, yeah.
4
Well,
a.m.
she
Yeah,
was my ex at the time, yeah. China. Oh man, what a ride. What a
that
ride.
sounds like it.
Alcohol, man.
I think my relationships are crazy. Then I hear that from you, and uh,
Bro, I have many. I have many. I've I've got some funny stories, not necessarily tied to NLP, but yeah, just let's go ahead and let's talk about using NLP in a more professional manner, as far as to make money and to manage people and to sell people.
right. Okay, so to sell people, right? So when it comes to sales, so much of it is NLP already without people knowing, right? So the average salesperson is going to use NLP without doing it consciously.
Right.
But the benefit of learning NLP is it's a very big toolbox. There's always an NLP answer to everything. That's something I learned. Like there's whenever somebody says something on a sales call, your brain should try to view it as paths. So he
Yeah.
said something, and now you have probably around 55 paths you can go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think of them
So
as like conversational threads. They like pop up and it's like I can go this
yeah,
way, I can go that way.
yeah. So first of all, I think everybody should learn to visualize it in some way. You view it as like paths or as strings or something. I view it as literal physical roads. That's how I see it inside my head.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I have all these different roads. Which one should I go? And the more NLP you learn, the more possible roads you can go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's the incredible thing about NLP is how creative you can get with it, because it's like essentially you're just served up these tools, and if you can conjure up and get creative and be like, well, if this works this way, then I can do it over here in my life, and setting up the anchors in different ways is like an infinite amount of possibilities to it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like being in sales in general is that whenever you try something with a sales prospect and it actually works, you most likely know that that's also going to work next time I talk to Maria or next time I talk to my dad, you know? You
Yeah.
know that once you have accomplished something in sales, you can repeat it. So, yeah, but back to how to use NLP. So, like view the prospect says something, and then instantly your brain should think, okay, which tool should I use to keep on going here? So that could be you throw a curveball at them. That could be entering at the meta model and start asking them questions to destroy their belief. It could also be to like FUD them, fear, uncertainty, doubt. So you ask them questions that destroy their belief.
Is fudding fear, uncertainty, and doubt, is that a route that you take, or is like that's the objective with the meta model, or is this the more
No,
circumstantial?
no. So the meta model and FUDing basically accomplish the same thing, but they're two very different ways of doing it. When you
Okay.
FUD somebody, you're the a bit more of the aggressive person. You're telling them basically you're wrong, I'm right. Whatever you believe is bullshit. You need to believe what I'm believing. Buy my product. With the meta model, you make them explain their belief, and while doing that, they destroy their own belief or objection typically.
When you're first, I guess initially like in the rapport building stage, is that where I'm just trying to think, because like if you're like being aggressive, um, and being assertive, is this going to be something that you do first and then you establish a rapport, or is this a technique that comes in a little bit later, like before the close, or like what area?
I think it depends on what you're selling, to be honest. But I think you always need a baseline bit of rapport. So if it's remote sales, you jump on a sales call, you say, "Hey, can you hear me?" Okay,
Mm,
so have you had a busy day so far? They say something about their day. You get a sense of what senses they think about or think with. So if you notice they say I feel like or I see or I heard or this smells, if they
yeah.
use sensory, you note that down immediately, and then you have that ready for later. But yeah, So build rapport first in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the sales calls. Like my sales calls are around 33% small talk before we actually get into anything. Because I need to have them comfortable first. If you jump straight into the sales questioning, they won't be able to open up. You need to get them talking. If they aren't talking for 5 minutes in a row without you having a chance to interrupt them, you're doing something wrong. They need to talk.
Right. So when you're like, I know this in the therapeutic setting where their sensory language, you want to try to then use it in a sales setting. Or let me explain a little bit. So if someone uses, um, I not I feel, but like I hear you would be, instead of like I see what you're saying, they say I hear you. That would be an indication of they're a more auditory, sensory type person. So, and when you're doing sales, how would you use that information to your advantage?
I would, first of all, I would mirror it. So next time they say something, next time they open up about something, I would say, I hear you, first of all. Because mirroring the language, not just body language, but you can also mirror language.
Right.
So I would mirror it, and then after that, you should, whenever you're talking about something, you can say, "Have heard about," or "Have you heard about?" So asking them.
Yeah.
So if you're selling a product, you can ask, "Have you heard about any of our clients' results?" Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think this, by using this the word choice, it creates a more vivid picture in their mind?
definitely yes. And also but not so much that, to be honest. I think it's more the report building sense in it. So they feel heard, or they feel comfortable with you when you mirror their language. It's the same concept
Yeah.
as matching, like when you match the breath or the body language or the posture. It's the same concept, it's just linguistic instead of physical.
Have you ever noticed, I noticed this a lot, like when I was in high school, whenever people use certain slang or certain, they have language choice that's culturally representative, and when you want to kind of be part of the group and you try to get your way in, you start to assimilate their language in the same way. I've seen
Yeah,
a big relationship between like cultural in-group, out-group, and rapport building as well.
yeah, so yeah, that's yes. When you want to be a part of something, you match them. Like all these NLP techniques, humans do it unconsciously all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we match people without ever noticing. We repeat, like we mirror language without ever noticing. Especially girls. Girls are so good at using this shit subconsciously. It's actually insane. Like, ha if you ever noticed, whenever a girl wants something from you, she will always ask, "Do you love me?" first. Like,
Oh,
they will always try to lead up with something to get you into a yes mood before they ask for something. Girls do all this shit subconsciously.
yeah. I don't. I'm seeing it in my head, and I just see them looking up at me like, please.
Exactly.
Can
Yeah.
I? Can you
So
buy that? Can I get that little teddy bear? Yeah, you
you
love me, right? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
The patterns that emerge are very interesting between, because when we think about unconscious behavior, we have different motives and different goals between men and women, and for the longest time, at least culturally, we try to ignore these differences. But when you try to break it down between what someone is looking for, because I kind of have like two theories, right, and kind of going towards the what you're moving towards and what you're moving away from, that what you're moving away from is the fear side of your mind, and that men and women have to have a different relationship with fear. And that, for example, like if I want to go out for a jog at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., it's dark outside, it's risky, but I'm not, I'm still going to do it. For a woman, the risk is much higher, the fear is much higher, and they have to, those forces bend their behavior in a way that is not the same as a man. And in the same regard, on the side of moving towards something with sex, that we have different biological needs from the other sex, so then we have different behaviors that manifest as a result of the different things that we're looking for.
Mm. Yeah. Actually, it's funny you talked about the fear thing because I heard somebody say, I don't remember who, women need to fear fear, men need to face fear. So the
Mm.
women they need to fear fear. Like fear is a legit emotion for women. For men, whenever you fear something, you should face it. and try to like stop fearing it, because fear is rarely a good, at least not in today's society. Fear is rarely a good emotion to feel, because there's not much that's actually dangerous for a man out here anymore, right? Of course,
That's true.
you can get robbed on the street or something, right? But you shouldn't be fearful of that. You should, you know.
Yeah.
But a woman, she should be very fearful because she can't protect herself. She like so yeah. So men need to face their fears, and women they should fear their fears.
That's a great rule of thumb. I I think I talked about it the other day on stream, but there was a moment where I sort of used or applied one aspect of the meta model to myself, where I was dissecting the own language I was using, and I started getting lost in this train of thought as I was thinking about it. But I was driving, and I got a little bit paranoid because the car behind me, I was driving in my neighborhood, and they had been taking every single turn that I was. So I started to say in my head, I was like, "Oh, he's still behind me. Why is he?" And I kept using he. And I stopped, and I was like, "Wait, I'm assuming because it could be a woman that's behind me. It could be a woman driving, but my brain is making this assumption." So I started to kind of unpack that and started to think about, well, why am I assuming it's a guy? And that led me to, as a woman, when you're like evaluating danger, for the most part you make the assumption that if you are in danger, if you feel danger, it's most likely going to be a man, and that's kind of the harsh reality of the world we live in.
Yeah, it's very true. But the same goes for the reverse stuff, right? Like
Predatory female.
no, no, not that. I mean, like whenever you feel fear, there's probably a man at the other end of it. But when you think of love, you instantly think of femininity and females, right?
Yeah, wow, right.
So it's kind of it's polarity. I always said that masculine and feminine energy is very different, and I have the belief that you cannot have masculine and female energy at the same time, or feminine energy. I believe they are very much apart, and I don't think you can. I don't believe there's a such thing as a balance between masculine and feminine. I think either you are masculine or you are feminine.
What about something like, because fundamentally I disagree, and I think of it more along the lines of like an 80-20 thing, like the 80-20 principle, where it's like maybe just a little dash of some softness, some sweetness might take you a
Yeah,
long way.
but I think that's something that has been programmed into you throughout, like, I believe that you're either born 100% masculine or 100% feminine, and then you receive programming from the outside throughout your entire life that programs some of the other behavior into you, but it will never be natural to you. Why? Whenever you see a feminine gay person, it instantly feels unnatural for most people unless like you are really deep into it.
Are you
It gives
talking from like a hormonal level, like a biological level, that some people are
yeah.
hormonally born more feminine or more masculine than others?
No, I believe you're either born feminine or masculine, not more feminine or more masculine than others.
So
I
it's
believe
like it's a binary
whenever,
thing, one or zero.
yeah, basically. So whenever you see like a gay man with feminine energy, the reason it feels so weird is because he isn't actually feminine at his core. It's something that has, well, I believe there are some exceptions to the rule, but like that's why it feels so unnatural to be around these people, because you can feel the energy isn't quite right. You can feel it's not real. It's not the real him. It's something that has either been programmed into him or something went wrong, or well, not wrong. I don't want to say that. That would be very homophobic of me, but something
You sounded a little, just a little homophobic right now.
something took a different path at some point, and he ended up with an energy that's not his natural energy.
I I kind of see what you're saying, because like as far as like groupthink wise, like if you're in the locker room, you would feel a bit of discomfort with the gay dude, but on a level to where it's like if you accept the gay dude in the locker room, like this is the environment, or like the prison, right? If you're the guy that's always vibing with them, you then end up outcasting yourself, because then the other dudes are just gonna be like, oh, well, he must be gay too, and we don't rock with that. So then you end up getting the boot. So then it becomes this, well, I need to stay within the social cohesion. So then you begin to participate in the outcasting of the homosexual energy. At least that's how I see it.
Okay, but let's move back to NLP. We took a little path here, but okay.
NLP. All right, so
Yeah.
we got girls, we got sales. How
I
about
wanna add a bit. I wanna add a bit more to the sales if it's fine with you.
yeah, go ahead. Well, one question. Do you manage people as well?
I have a few employees, but I'm not close with them. I have a person that manages my employees for me. So
Gotcha.
I guess I manage him in a way, but that's more of like a friendship thing. I just tell him what to do and he does it. So
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, if there's any like techniques that you use in that realm, but yeah, for sales,
mm,
let's hear it.
no, yeah. So with sales, there's a lot of NLP like tools there, and the ones I recommend the most are curveballs and seeds, like planting seeds in people's minds, and then pattern interrupts. So
Curveball, planting seed, pattern interrupt.
yeah, and you can combine these. So you could throw up curveball while pattern interrupting them, and then plant a seed in their mind because that's when they're most open to it.
Ah,
So
yes. Okay,
yeah,
that's
but let
advanced.
me let me start by elaborating on what a seed is. So the whole point of a seed is that you plant an idea inside their mind that you're going to use later to kind of like explode the seed and fully have them believe this idea.
Gotcha. Like
So
persuasion.
yeah, and the ideal thing with sales is that you plant the seed in the marketing, then you further water the seed during the sales call, and if they don't end up buying, you wait some time and then you explode the seed afterwards. So that the ideal sales path is not one called close. The ideal sales path is they see the marketing, seeds get planted onto their minds, they
Mm-hmm.
talk with the salesperson, all the seeds gets watered, they start having these ideas, they start thinking about you more often, and they get to connect a face or a voice to the whole idea and concept.
Can you go
And
a
then if
little bit? Oh, sorry. I complete the thought.
and then if they don't buy immediately, you then use these seeds to force them eventually, and then at the end of the road, every single person will buy if you just make sure you keep on the seeds.
Gotcha. So then, essentially, in the sale in the way would be like harvesting what you've grown.
Yes.
Could you
So,
go a little bit more into what exploding the seed is and what that looks like?
yeah, so okay, let me give you an example that you shouldn't use, but that would work well. So if you're talking to a girl, you could be like, say during the relationship, do you love me? If you say that regularly during the relationship, and then whenever she disobeys you, you need to say, I knew you never loved me. Right? So you plant the seed. You plant the seed. Don't use this. This is
That's,
for
that's so
educational purposes only. But
educational purposes. Yes.
yeah, but you plant the seed, then you water it by like repeating and explaining it more, and then whenever you're in a situation where you're fucked, you throw out the curveball and you explode the seed.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I got you. So curveball. Curveball. What exactly is the curveball? I think I understand like conceptually what a curveball would be.
Yeah, so your girl, you and her, you're talking. She says that she doesn't want to move in with you. You're talking, then all of a sudden you switch your tonality and then you switch your body language at the same time, and then you say, "I knew you never loved me." So
Is that
you
that's the
like,
curveball?
yeah. So you just take the conversation a completely different path.
Ah. Okay.
So imagine like you're on the path. You took one path with the sales thing that I talked about earlier, having paths in your mind. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you just go off the path. You just jump to another road without any sort of like preface or nothing. You just jump immediate.
I'm like picturing it in my head. It would be essential that your tone and your body language conveys the correct emotion. Because if you do it like a bitch, I mean, it's probably not gonna work too well.
So yeah, no, that is very true. So let me think of a sales example for 1 second. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you're talking sales. You're selling windows.
Okay.
You're talking to the prospect. You're talking about the specs of the windows. All of a sudden, they ask you a question that you don't want to answer. So you switch tonality, you switch body language, and you say, are you popular at work? Or are you good socially at work? You throw them in a completely different path.
Right.
So they get confused, they get caught off guard, and then you can start flooding their ideas as well. But the essential thing is you get them off the path. So you use a curveball whenever you're on a road that you don't want to be on.
Right. I wish I knew that when I was in sales. I wish I
And
knew all this stuff when I was in sales. It'd be so much easier.
yeah, so you want the burden of proof to always be on the prospect, right?
Can
You want
you
them talking,
can
as you
you
said earlier.
explain that concept to me?
Yeah, so in the meta model, you have a belief. I ask you about the belief whenever I ask you a question. So let's say you believe carrots make you blind, and I believe and I want you to believe that carrots, fix your vision. You
Gotcha.
you say to me carrots make you blind. I say, who made you believe that carrots make you blind? So you,
Bugs Bunny.
well, I completely lost my train of thought. 1 second. Um,
Take your time.
yeah. Wait, can you remind me 1 second? What was my idea with this? What were we talking about? I got a message. I got fucking distracted.
Yeah, I was reading chat. Yeah, hold on. Pattern
Oh yeah,
interrupts.
burden of proof. Burden of proof. Burden of. Oh,
Burden
my
of
light went out.
proof. Yes, this is.
Yeah.
I need to take notes.
So as soon as I ask you a question, who made you believe that? The burden of proof is on you now, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so you say, I believe carrots. So I believe carrots make me blind. You put the burden of proof on me. Now I have to convince you that carrots don't make you blind. But I don't want to do that. I want you to convince yourself,
Right.
right? So I ask you, who made you believe that? And then if you say a credible source, I need to take a different path. I need to ask you another question. If you say an uncredible source, I say, well, do you think that person has your best intention? So you believe carrots make you blind, and you believe it because Big Pharma said it. So I say, okay, well, do you believe that Big Pharma has your best intention in mind?
Right.
You
Challenge the
say, I don't.
credibility.
You say, I don't really know. Well, okay. Well, have you considered the possibility that maybe it's only carrots that come from Big Pharma that make you blind? What if you eat carrots that comes from a local farm? Will that also make you blind? You say, I don't know, maybe. Now I want you to say yes. I want you to agree with me. So I need to pull out another tool. But that's the presence of it. I think you understand now with the burden of proof thing. You want them to explain it, and while explaining it, you want to point out all the flaws.
Right.
And once they realize the flaws, they will change their mind automatically most of the time.
That's a great perceptual shift, and man, I might have to get back into mortgages so I can try all this stuff, cuz like every time I was doing it, I the way I perceived it was I have to get them to me, but with the whole burden of proof thing, it's like you're putting them on the back foot. And it's kind of like
Yeah,
you're like kind of throwing them off balance into your hands.
yeah, but also you need to be careful. You don't want to come off as a dick. You want to come off as a guy who's there to help them at the end of the day. So
Right.
you need to not be as aggressive as I am right now. Sometimes a bit of aggression is good, but most of the time you need to still seem like you're the guy who wants to help them and you have good intentions with it.
Right. Man, so we covered what? Burden of proof, got pattern interrupts, curveballs, exploding seeds. What else is in the arsenal?
Well, let me see. Let me think what I can talk about here. Hmm. Well, I think we covered all the like main principles of sales. I think it's best to move on to another topic because I don't want to go too deep into it.
Okay.
Because if I explain too advanced concepts, people will try to use them without understanding the fundamentals, and then they will just end up ruining the leads. So I
Yep,
don't I
they're
don't want
gonna
to be
get burnt.
responsible.
Okay. Um, let's see. How about like with friendships? NLP with developing friendships.
Yeah. So honestly, I don't use it with friendships ever at all. I believe that if you want to make friends, you should just be yourself and be charismatic. If I had to use one thing, and I don't actually know if this is an NLP concept, but it is defining your personal philosophy and your personal values and your personal beliefs.
Right.
Every single one of them, because this is theory. I don't remember who came up with it, but is that the more you know your beliefs and your values, and the more you know where they come from, the more charismatic you're going to be, because the more assertive you're going to be. So what you need to do is you need to grab a piece of paper and a pen, write down all your beliefs. Where did this belief come from? Is this belief beneficial to me? Why did the person want me to believe this? Once you know that, you need. So yeah, um, what is the belief? Who told me the belief? Do they have my best intention in mind? And do I want this belief for my goal? Once you've done that with all your beliefs, you now have a list of beliefs that are good for you, and a list of beliefs that are bad for you.
You know,
And you want to replace
sorry.
the bad ones with good ones. Yeah. No,
It's
go on.
crazy that like how potent and how powerful an exercise like this would be, and that if we all collectively did it, we'd probably look and see, damn, I've been assuming a lot of shit about the world the media wants me to believe, and it's all been false. Every thread just lends all the way back. Oh, I saw that on TV. Oh, I saw that on Instagram. I saw that on Facebook. I saw
Yeah.
that on TikTok. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy. I still sometimes, whenever I believe something or whenever I like make an assumption or generalization, if you want to use the NLP term, I pull out my phone, I write it down, and then I access it later when I'm home and I have time. I still find these like programmed into me ideas that I didn't even know was there deep in my mind.
Yeah, that it happens to me. Not so much anymore, but like I'll be talking to someone and they'll challenge something, and then I reflect and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, wait, what? Where the fuck did that come from? That's not even accurate. But it's like
Yeah,
it's been ingrained for so long that I just say it automatically and I don't even question it. And then once it's challenged, then it's kind of like going to the meta model. It's like you're just spewing out shit, and then someone's there can in a constructive way trying to unpack what's missing.
right. And that's why it's so super important to go through your beliefs, because once you've gone through them all, you're confident in them, you can defend them, and now you're going to be more assertive. And assertiveness always leads to charisma.
I can see
So
that.
when you go through your personal philosophy, your personal beliefs, and your personal values, and you know them all by heart, you will be more assertive in everything you say. Your confidence will go up, your aura will start to shine, and you will be more charismatic. So that's my advice when it comes to building strong friendships. Find all your beliefs, find your personal philosophy, and find people who can either help you to get closer to your goal, or find people with similar beliefs or similar philosophies or similar values.
I think it says a lot about certainty as well. When you do this, you become more certain of what you believe and what you say, and that um I don't want to say glue, but it smooths out everything when you're like approaching a new social dynamic, it just goes smoothly because you're so certain,
Right.
and
Exactly.
it helps
And
to create
that
new friendships.
Yeah, and I think the reason so many people are insecure and sound so uncertain when they speak nowadays is because they don't know what they believe, and they don't know why they believe the stuff they believe. They
Yeah,
have no idea. You can break, if I go out in the street, I can break most people's realities within 15 seconds of speaking to them.
that's a
They have
talent.
they have no idea of what's actually going on in their brain. They don't know. They don't even know when they're making assumptions anymore. It just happens, right?
Right.
So, and of course, some assumptions are very good and you want to keep them. Like you don't want to delete the assumption that you should not touch a hot stove. You kind of
You
want
need
that to
that.
be there, right? That's a good assumption. So it's not like all assumptions are bad. But if you have the assumption that all courses online are scams, you need to think, okay, why the fuck do I have this assumption? Is this really benefiting me? And who made me believe this?
Right, and
Right?
the who's very important as well.
Yeah, because then you can kind of distinguish who's credible and who's not credible.
Yep. I got some ideas in my head of some uncredible organizations that have influenced the way that we think, but I won't say them out loud here. At least not right now.
Well, yeah, so that's kind of it when it comes to like friends. I think it's just having values and boundaries. Yeah, boundaries as well. You need to have a list of boundaries that you do not let anybody cross related to you. And if they cross it, they need to either be punished or you need to get the fuck away from them. Like I have I have a list of boundaries. Like I have everything ranging from okay, I'm going to cut down communication with this guy by 50%, all the way down to we're throwing hands on the spot. Right? So have a list of boundaries.
Okay, principles and boundaries very important. How you structure your life.
Yeah, because it will make you more confident. Because you're walking around knowing that if anybody says this will be the consequence. You know?
Right.
And of course, you need to be smart about it. If Shaquille O'Neal broke my worst boundary, I wouldn't jump him because I would get fucked up. I would, you know.
Too
But in
big.
general,
I think
in
the
general,
general yeah, like I guess the general premise between or like for developing friendships with using NLP is to focus on yourself and focus
yes,
on gaining confidence, gaining certainty, knowing who you are, being true to yourself, and the people will come as a result.
definitely, yeah, I agree with that. Because I think the problem with going out and using NLP on friends is it's simply not worth it. It will take so much time to change all the beliefs and all their ideas,
Hmm.
and you can just go out and find somebody who already has all those beliefs and ideas. The reason we don't do that with females, and the reason we want to not put our ideas into the brains of females, but the reason we want to use NLP with females is that they are much more programmable than males are. It's much easier to have your female adopt the same philosophy as you than it is to have a male adopt the same philosophy as you because two masculine people going up against each other is kind of a bit it's kind of like two magnets, you will never truly be able to have the 100% same philosophy, so there will always be a bit of tension between you.
Yeah, and well, two things to that. I think anyone who goes about the world trying to change everyone's beliefs probably has something that they need to work on internally, because obviously that's not something that's normal. It's more of a on the realms of like Hitler-esque.
Yeah, actually, I have a very, very funny thing to that. The people who go around trying to change people's beliefs are often those who are the most uncertain about themselves and their personal philosophy. So, yeah, you see, like, those Christians who set up, like, Bible. I don't know if this is a thing in other countries, but I know it is very big here. There's like, Christians who go out and approach people on the street to try to convince them of their religion.
Yeah, we have
And that,
Jehovah's Witnesses in America. They
yeah,
knock on your door.
yeah, they knock on your door. They are everywhere in the world. I can confirm that.
Hmm.
But in Denmark, we also have people approaching you on the street, or they have like a little shelf with a couple of Bibles on the corner, and they approach people walking by. So the reason that doesn't work, and I think the problem with those types of people is they do it because they're not secure enough in themselves, right? So Jehovah Witnesses is a bit different. They have to do it. It's their religious text, right? Or their religious belief.
I don't know a whole
With
lot about it, but that would make sense.
But with like vegans, okay, vegans are a way better example. There are a lot of vegans who push their their agenda onto other people, and they do it because they're not certain in what it is. If you're certain about something, you don't need to push it. You will never seem desperate about something you're certain about.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I'm trying to think though, because like well, I'm looking at it from the angle of it's possible that someone would engage in this type of behavior because they have such strong conviction in it that they believe that like it's the ultimate truth.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think I was a bit too generalizing before. So there are people who are so convinced in the idea that it is so important that it needs to be spread to everyone.
Right.
And that's also the result of not accessing your beliefs, because there's truly nothing that is that important that it needs to be spread to everyone. So those people need to consider their belief as well. But yeah, so there's like climate change activists. There are a lot of those people who are so certain about what they believe that they will sit on roads and stop ambulances from driving around because they are so certain about that the world would go under if the
Yeah.
ambulance passes through, right? So yeah,
Perhaps not
I think
the best solution to the problem.
yeah, I think there are other ways
They
to
might
solve that
be
problem. Yeah.
blowing up not necessarily like a grandiose sense of self, but a bit of a like a like not a superiority, but they think too grandly about their own perception of their beliefs. I
Yeah,
chopped.
so
Fuck it. That didn't make
I
any
think this
sense.
I think it's the result of making your entire life about one thing. If you
Yeah.
make your entire life about one belief, you will become that belief and you will radiate that belief. You
Right.
will become, instead of being a multi-belief organism, you will be just one thing. There's nothing deep or complex about you. All you are is a climate change activist. That's who you are, right? And that's not very deep. Richard Bandler, for example, he preaches a lot about NLP because that's pretty much all he is,
Yeah.
right? And there's a use case for these people. You need those people, but 99.99% of people don't want to be that person. They want to
Mm.
be the person taking, listening to that person who made something his entire life, and then taking part of that to make themselves better overall.
Right. I kind of dabbled in this, and it was a big thing for me when I was bodybuilding. I never wanted to be just the guy that was all bodybuilding all the time and only cared about the gym and food. I wanted to be more multifaceted because that makes you more interesting. And I also think there's something to say about contrast because like I'm a bit of a nerd, I'm a bit of a gamer. I got my Zelda poster right there. And it's like I hit the gym, I like to train hard, I like to invoke masculine energy and be the best version of myself, but that doesn't mean I can't like nerdy things at the same time, you know? And that contrast adds a bit to your character.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a need for people who delve their entire life into one thing. If you're going to hire a bodybuilding coach, you want to hire somebody who thinks, sleeps, and eats bodybuilding.
Right.
If you want the best salespeople possible, you want people who believe, eat, and sleep about sales. They
Mm.
dream about sales. Everything is about sales, right? So you need those people. But if you want to truly live the best life possible, I think the best solution is to try not to be one of those people and to delve into different things and make yourself the best person possible through combining everything you can learn from other people.
And connecting the dots.
Exactly. Yeah. At least that's my personal goal, my personal philosophy. And yeah, I think it's a flaw to just go all in on one thing unless you are very, very, very passionate about it.
Yeah, the it's similar going back again to like the 80/20 principle that you can like I'll use the example from when I was in school. So I was trying to go to the gym. Well, I was going to the gym. I was bodybuilding when I was in school, and I also had my classes. And I could have been all class, try to get a 4.0, or go all bodybuilding and try to get ultra 4% body fat, big shredded jacked. But instead of going, all one way or all the other, I was like, I can take a 3.5 GPA and I can take, like 8, 9% body fat and train instead of 6 days a week. I can go for 4 days a week. And it's still good in the fact that there'll be diminishing returns where I get an extra zero point 0.5 on my GPA, but I don't get to train at all and I don't get to socialize at all. And I think that concentration, being able to be good at multiple things is good. It's good for your mind, flexibility.
I agree. I agree a lot. Yeah.
Neurolinguistic programming, man, it's the shit. It's the new wave.
Yeah. I think also like the whole thing we just talked about with beliefs and stuff, it is just altering your map of the world, right?
Right.
So it's like how generalizations, there's how you distort stuff. That's another thing. You should try to notice how you distort information because
To fit
in
your
your
own
brain,
narrative.
yeah, exactly, to fit your goal, because often you will end up distorting stuff that you don't need to distort. You will end up making a big deal out of things you don't need to make a big deal about.
Hmm.
So, like, if I hear there was an earthquake in India and 10,000 Indians die, it will have a significantly smaller impact on me than it will have on somebody who lives right next town to the town who got, and
Right.
that's the result of distorting the information. For them, it's close, it's relevant, so they distort the information to make a big deal out of it. For me, it's far away. I don't really care for Indians, and I make a small deal. So,
India's very far away. Yeah, yeah, it's very
yeah,
not
yeah,
relevant.
exactly, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Gotcha.
what I said. Yeah. So yeah, so notice now you distort information and why you distort information is good.
Right. I was just today, the one that I look out for the most, or like the one that I think about a lot is the nominalizations, where you I guess like the most I try to explain it in a way that's understandable for most people. I like to use the one example I heard today was someone said with depression, and that they were diagnosed with depression, and it's creating something that isn't like it's not a disease. You know, depression is not something that I catch, so you don't get diagnosed with depression, but it's turning it into a noun where it's like you have this thing that exists, but in reality it's just a word with a label that's loaded with assumptions. So there's it's not something, you know what I mean. It's not something like depression's not in my body. I don't have with depression. I'm not with depression. It's something I experience.
Right. Actually, it's funny you said with depression. So I was at an NLP workshop recently, and that we were shown a clip of a guy who said exactly that I am with depression and I have depression. Those were the two statements he said. And then the therapist, what he did is he realized that he views the depression as a physical object or physical thing inside of him.
Right.
So what he had him do is envision the depression in his brain, put it on like a glass board, and then shattering it, and that cured him.
Just
He,
the
he he physically killed his depression because it was a physical thing for him. When he thought about depression, an image popped up into his mind, something physical.
mm,
So when it's something physical, you can destroy it, right? And
right.
if it had been something mental, he would have him, you know, maybe find out what the cause is and what the consequence is, and then distort the information differently. But
I
here he made it physically straight.
I think the coolest thing about NLP is that you don't have to like unpack the history. There's no psychoanalysis trying to understand why I feel this way, where it came from. It's very future oriented, and it's you take it's so crazy that it's like fundamentally there's images in your brain, and just by modifying them and changing them, that in an unconscious way you respond differently.
Right. Yeah. So I can fix everybody who's on this stream right now. If you have trouble sleeping at night, I can fix you right now. So close your eyes, take
Close
some
your eyes,
breaths.
everybody.
Now, when you think, notice the brightness of your picture, of like the what you imagine. Notice the brightness. Turn it down a bit. See if you can control it. Turn it up, turn it down. Just if you can control it, start slowly turning it down, making it a bit more dim. Then notice how big the picture is. How much does it take? Try to see if you can stretch the image, zoom it in, zoom it out. And if you have a video playing in your head or if you have a slideshow, try to see if you can focus on just one still image. So now you have your image in your head. Now do all of these things combined. Have it be very dim, have it be small, and have it be a still image. Next, notice the voice in your head. Does he talk fast? If he's talking fast, you need to see if you can make him slow down a bit. Can he talk slow? Can you control the pace? Okay, but what about the tone of the voice? Is he aggressive? Is he violent? Or can you make him speak softly? Can he be calm? Can he communicate with you in a nice way? And now if you do this while you're sleeping, it should very much work. If you consciously do this every time you sleep, it should work. So the root problem of insomnia is that you have bright pictures in your head and you have a high-pitched or loud voice in your head.
Mm.
So if you control them, turn them down, you will fall asleep.
That makes sense. And as I was going through that, I was like, man, I gotta try this. I might try this tonight.
Yeah. So notice, I had very much trouble sleeping for many years of my life. I fixed it before I found out what NLP was. But yeah, so learning to control the images that you have in your brain is everything, right? So when you wake up in the morning, another thing you can do, if you're one of those people you like to lay in your bed around 15 minutes in the morning, hitting the snooze button, maybe laying on your phone a bit before getting up. What you can do is you can imagine the most terrifying thing that you can think of. The worst situation that you ever been in. You need to imagine that immediately every time you wake up, and the only way to fix it is to go to the other end of the room and turn on your light.
Mm,
This requires a bit of discipline,
yeah.
but you need to try to do this every single morning, and eventually, as soon as you wake up, and if you don't go up and turn it off, you will have a fucking bad day, so you will go up and turn it off.
Right. And then eventually it gets to the point where you wake up and that image just appears. And you don't
Yeah, and
even
you're like,
it's
oh
not
shit,
even
I
something you
need to get going.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to how there's an infinite amount of possibilities, you can really get creative with the ways that you want to produce images or anchor things, especially
Yeah,
when you have like a fundamental understanding of how the neurons link to each other. Like one thing leads to this thing, leads to this thing, and then by
right.
doing it
Yeah,
over and over again, it becomes a stronger connection between all of them.
yeah. I think the most important thing about NLP, personally, I think is learning to control the modalities and the submodalities, so that, like I did with the pictures and the voice in your head when you're trying to sleep, learn to change the tone of the voice, the loudness of the voice, learn to change the size of the picture, the if there's color on the picture, the brightness on the picture, learn to control all these things inside your mind. And then there's basically nothing you can't do with NLP.
Incredible stuff, man. I was hypnotized just a couple minutes ago. My eyes closed. I was riding your wave. We were going through it.
Yeah, so yeah. Any more NLP related stuff we gotta go through?
um, man, I mean, we covered every base. I mean, how long has it been? How long we been here?
I- Yeah. I don't
Let me
I
see.
don't keep track of time. It's like a concept that I have. I have a person to do that for me.
You have a person to keep track of time.
Yeah. I'm not even joking. Every time I wake up,
That's cool as
I have
fuck,
a
man.
message waiting for me saying what day it is, what date it is, and what I have to do.
That's pretty fresh, dude. We've been going for an hour. Wow.
And oh, wow.
Yeah, we went for a whole hour. I
Yeah.
mean, any final thoughts? We can go ahead and wrap it up here.
Mm, no, it's just don't use NLP in a bad way. It can be used to mislead people, and you should not do that, because at the end of the day, it will come back to bite you at some point.
The Fed's
Whether
gonna
you
get you.
whether you believe in karma or not, something will happen. Whether it's physical with the police coming after you after using it for many years,
Yeah.
or if it's just you knowing deep down in your heart that you're a fucking asshole, something will go wrong eventually.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's all.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been a great talk.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. If you want me on another time, we can set something up.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely, man. I mean, last closing thought for me, I was just thinking about it because in the same way that you have to train to get the things to be more automatic, like when you place the states or the example when you're getting out of bed, it's something that takes time. It's something that has to be trained, it has to be practiced. In the same way that, the girls start off normal girls and then over time they end up slaves, and we don't want that. So, it takes time. Fundamentally, it just takes time.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, man. It's been real. Really appreciate you
Alright.
having you on.